The fifth song I am releasing today is titled Don't Do It. The full title is Don't Do It, Married Woman, or in Korean language, Hajima Ajuma. A lot of my songs, I realize, especially the songs written in English, have been written while I was in South Korea. After all, I've spent almost 20 years there. So, definitely a very, very productive part of my life, those 20 years. A lot of songs came out of that era, and a lot of them are just songs that can be applied to absolutely any situation, any time. They are timeless, just like all good songs should be. uh, in 2001, we had that bloody September 11. After September 11, it was a witch hunt on everything that was progressive, everything that was how can I say, outspoken, whether it was coming from the Islamic side or Christian side. If you were criticizing the government, you were an enemy. It was you're either with us or against us. Later on, we realized that the American government was a part of September 11 as much as whatever Saudi Arabian government or Kuwaiti government or whatever, whoever we blame today for that. I was very outspoken prior to September 11. I considered myself a cultural terrorist. And I used to say that my weapon was my guitar because with my music I wanted to open people's eyes to injustices around the world and to the way to find a way to back to themselves, because in the end it's all about one love, and it's all about that fight that has to be fought within yourself rather than outside. The enemy is really on the inside rather than on the outside, and we have been conditioned emotionally, physically, from the outside to fight that war. Long story. So I decided to leave North America. I was very interested in Buddhism, of course. I wanted to study different things, different ways of living. I was sick and tired of being labeled a Muslim. People would just make jokes about that or just have fun with it, even though, my family comes from, Christian side, from Muslim side. We have so many different people in my religion, in my family, that it's impossible to say that we are just one way or another. Nevertheless, the people would assume that if you are LD, you're Muslim, and I really wasn't feeling like explaining myself over and over and over and again. And that's the reality. I still have to do the same thing in North America. As soon as I open my mouth, people will ask me, "Oh, where are you from?" I will say Bosnia and Herzegovina, and the first thing they will think of is the war and blah blah blah. Not realizing that that war has to do as much with the politics here in North America as it does with the politics over there. In the end, it's all about the money and the people controlling the world with it. So I said, okay, I really can't do this anymore. I was sick and tired of explaining myself in Bosnia. I was sick and tired of explaining myself here. I'm going to Asia, and there I can just be nobody, be Buddhist. I loved it. So, in order for me to go from St. John's to Seoul, 15,000 kilometers, at that time I had to step over in Toronto in order to get a visa to live in South Korea. So I had 4 or 5 days there. The whole trip was absolutely amazing. This itinerary that I had, I applied for a position in South Korea. I got the job. They paid for my ticket, and the person who organized the trip, told me, okay, listen, you have to be at 4 o'clock in the morning in front of this striptease bar downtown St. John's, and the bus will pick you up and take you to a boat, and the boat will take you to another province, and then there's another bus, and then you will spend the night, and then there's a plane, and then you will go to, spend a couple of days there. Then there's another plane to America, then another plane to Japan, then another plane to Korea. The whole trip was about, I don't know, a whole week or something like that. But what I love about traveling is those moments in between when you leave one place and you haven't arrived there yet, so you really have a time to reinvent yourself. When you meet people and people ask you who you are, you don't have to be the poor little refugee from Bosnia and Herzegovina, a Muslim, a Croat, a Christian. You can just be yourself, and you could be whatever you want. You can be Mexican. I loved it. So during those 4 or 5 days I stayed in Toronto, I wrote this song, Don't Do It. Not realizing that this song was actually written for people that I'm yet to meet, that I don't even know at that time, that, this married woman that is contemplating suicide, which this song is about, is as much me as that person I'm yet to meet. A lot of my songs that I wrote, especially love songs, are about that. I wrote songs about the end of love, before I even fell in love, and that's kind of realizing that, every love has kind of the beginning and the middle and the end, of course, but it's not the love. Love never ends, but the lovers do. Lovers move on and whatnot, or die, but the love as a phenomenon is eternal, just like my songs, timeless. So, while staying in Toronto, I don't know why at that time one of the popular songs, and the song that I listened to was by Lenny Kravitz, I Wanna Fly Away. And of course, that's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to escape North America and the whole propaganda about September 11 and all that jazz, and just, I didn't want to fight the wars anymore, and I'm still doing it. We're still fighting the same bloody wars. So that chorus of Lenny Kravitz's song, and again, there's thousands of other songs within the same chord progression and same style of music, especially like in Bosnia and Herzegovina or former Yugoslavia. Nevertheless, I paid homage to Lenny with that song. I Want to Fly Away, but the rest of the song is about the topic of suicide, and this is a trigger warning to many people, because it's not an easy topic to talk about. I personally survived it several times. I've come to a point where there was just no way to move on, to continue. The pain was unbearable, it just, to me, that felt like the only option, and luckily or unluckily, I was able to find a way out. Even the lyrics, is today like yesterday, just another day, you're sitting there all alone and no one is to blame. I cannot blame anybody for being Bosnian. I cannot blame anybody for losing my family, for being in the war. It just, like Newfoundlanders say, it is what it is, it happened. And that's fine, when life gives you lemons, you make a lemonade, but at some point there's way too many lemons, and you look back and there's more and more lemons coming, and you have so much lemonade already. Just, I can't do this anymore. I just can't do it anymore. For years I actually worked with an organization called Dying with Dignity, because I believe that there should be a way to step out of this matrix, with dignity. Because let's say if you really want to check out, there should be a humane way of you checking out. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave Hotel California. There must be a way out of here, said the Joker to the thief, another song. How? You know, if you, let's say, if you decide to end your own life, that means you're going to cause so much pain and trouble, not just to you, well, not to yourself, but to everyone around you. And then that's a huge responsibility and burden. So I'm supposed to endure my own pain and tragedy because of other people, so I don't hurt them. And that's even worse than just living with it every day. No one can help you. You can't help anyone, but you have to continue. You have to carry on. You have to push on through. And why? Because people tell you, don't do it, don't do it. You won't be born again. It's a sin to commit that act. In Islam, in Christianity, it's a sin. What if, let's say, if that's the way to get out of this matrix, if actually you decide to do end that rat race, the moment you do, you're free. Maybe your soul becomes free from this enslavement of this world and economy and politics, because it's perpetual. It is, you can see that my grandfather struggled, my father struggled, I struggled, my kids struggle. How do we end all this? Should we just collectively commit harakiri, as Japanese would say? Just collectively end it, okay? That's it. We're out. We're all out. We don't want to work for $12 an hour, to be exploited, to work from morning to night for something that is never going to materialize. We're never going to own our homes. We're never going to have a swimming pool in front of my home, and I'm never going to travel around the world and blah, 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 blah. But some will. So why would, let's say, a movie star or a basketball star or somebody who was born rich, just because his parents are rich, he's rich, and his kids will be rich, so they have everything while I have nothing? It's just not cool. I'm not making fun of this. I am not trying to be funny. I went through this myself. I fought my own demons. I lost my country, my family, my identity, all my finances, my home, my restaurants, later on my own wife, my own children, over and over again. And there were times that just I could not continue. But I did, I had to. The whole message of the song is don't do it. Push on through, and then tomorrow will be better. Little by little, little by little. I have a lot of different videos on this topic on Newfound Bosnia and on how to survive a separation. This whole video music videos that I'm releasing is about the man trying to go to this process. It's not easy, and honestly, a lot of times I felt like if there was a way to step out of it, less painfully, like I would, why not? If people were more accepting of it and say, okay, sure. It's interesting. It's interesting. It's worth considering, but it's not interesting. It's painful, to be honest. Nevertheless, so many people never try to find what's there in their minds. I've seen so many live and die. They never let their soul see the light. The song is there to speak on this topic, to ask questions whether there's an ethical way, a humane way to deal with these things. Should we be able to leave this world peacefully, or should we be able to live in this world peacefully? How do we deal with this? At some point, when you see that people are just falling in the river and you're trying to save them from drowning in the river, you have to ask yourself, why are they falling in the river in the first place? What is it? what creates these conditions in which people actually are contemplating such things. In case of Don't Do It Married Woman, the story speaks of a friend that I met upon leaving or entering South Korea for the first time. So my first roommate in South Korea was a Canadian, a young Canadian gentleman with whom I've shared so many good memories. Um, he fell in love with a lovely Korean lady, and at that time she was married to a Korean doctor. They had two small children, and she was so unhappy because she never saw her husband, and he lived separately, yet he didn't want to divorce her because that was something that couldn't be done in traditional Korean society. She was deeply unhappy and excuse me, contemplated taking her own life despite the kids and the family. And what made it even worse was the fact that she actually fell in love with my friend, and he fell in love with her. And on one side they had everything, on the other side they had nothing. They really didn't know what to do. At one point they asked for my blessing, and I told them, look, if it's love, it will win. Go for it. I am a hopeless romantic, of course, knowing fully well that what I was saying would go against everything that I have been conditioned to believe. I'm a traditionalist as well. I grew up in a place when divorce was not an option. The only way out was death, and not by your own hand. You had to endure a lot of pain. I met people who used to it's not funny, but it sounds funny, who used to wish to die because it was just unbearable, to live. Nevertheless, my friends actually decided, after a long struggle, to get married. So she was able to finally get, divorced from her husband, and they decided to marry. But because Korea at that time was very, 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 very closed, there was no way for them to do that there. So they decided to move to Canada, and they did. They moved to Canada and got married. They have another child together. So 5 of them are all happy, living and working in some for Scotia Bank. So it's a happy ending. It could have gone the other way. I met this lady many years later in South Korea. She came to visit her family, and she looked like a married woman. When we first met, we were all like kind of in 20s, children, just having fun, young and foolish. Now she looks like a serious person, woman, and it's, in my eyes, I just thought to myself, my God, where did time go? It's amazing when you see somebody like, in my mind, she was always this young person, and now she's somebody completely different. So that's what happens if you push on through. You are given another chance, and nobody can give you that other chance except for yourself. You have to decide for yourself. It's not easy. It's not something that can that can come almost naturally. You really have to fight for it. I fought for my own chances, and they led me here. I was able to survive the war, the divorce, the mental scares, physical scares, medicinal scares, to get me to this point here. And here I am, finally releasing my songs about all these different things. Don't Do It is about suicide. It's a triggering song for me. It's a triggering song for everybody. It's not okay. It's not okay. Don't do it. But if you have to, consult an expert next to you or friends and before you do anything foolish, because I don't know if we have another chance. This is it. This is the one. I love you all. I will see you in the next video.